Welcome to today's edition of Mental Health Matters. Today, we're going to be talking about absentee fathers. I have Andre Williams on the show today, and he's going to share his experience growing up in a home without a father. Get you something to drink and get you a snack and come on back. Good morning, Andre. How are you doing?
Good good morning. I'm doing really good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Nice last name, by the way.
I know, right? That's funny how that happened.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I do want to thank you for taking the time out, your busy schedule, and just kind of share your experience and your testimony with the community. Why don't we start off by you just kind of introducing yourself and just telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Hello everybody. My name is Andre Williams. I'm 35 years old. I'm from Sacramento, California. Here, born and raised. And I I've been married for 10 years now. I have three beautiful daughters.
Nice.
Yeah, and um, and yeah, right now, currently working in human resources.
Okay, nice. So you say you was born in Sacramento. How many siblings do you have?
Oh, so I only have one biological sibling, an older sister,
Nice.
who's 7 years older than me. Other than that, that's it.
All right. Did you come, Andre, were you did you come from a two-parent home, one-parent home, or what?
I did not come from a two-parent home. I came from a one-parent home, single mother.
Okay.
And yeah, she did the best she could,
Yeah.
and I know she loved us very much, but there were a lot of challenging times, to say it nicely.
Yeah. Yeah. So what was that like for you? What was your childhood like just overall for you?
It was hectic.
Yeah.
It was hectic. Excuse me, especially without having a father, a leader, that stability, that strong voice in the home, um, led to a lot of just instability. We moved a lot, right?
No.
And so I went to 10 different schools, as a kid, only one high school, nine elements between, elementary and middle school, nine different schools. My mom struggled with addiction and alcoholism. And so I spent a lot of time back and forth from my mother to my grandmother, and then back to my mom and then my grandmother again. And so, yeah, again, very hectic. And a lot of that, again, without having that leader in the house, things went array.
Yeah. Yeah. I can totally relate to that. How do you think it affected your sister? But the dynamics of your family, how do you think it affected her?
Oh man, tremendously, tremendously. She's 7 years older than me, like I previously stated. So there were things that she has seen that uh, I could never even recollect.
Yeah.
Prior to me even being born.
Yeah.
And then some of the things from when I was younger, 1 years old, 2 years old, three that I can't remember. She remembers.
Yeah.
And a lot of crazy times, especially because my mom was again, She struggled with drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
She also struggled with being a very promiscuous woman. So,
Mhm.
there was a lot of men in and
Yes.
out of the home, and
Yes.
so that with my sister seeing that, being exposed to that, it was really, really rough.
Yeah.
Both me and my sister, we witnessed domestic violence.
Mhm.
I seen my mother get her nose broke.
Mhm.
My mother get her ribs broken. Also the guys that she was involved with were involved in gangs and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So at a very young age, we were exposed to gang violence,
Yeah.
as a auxiliary to it, right? And so yeah, it was definitely pretty nuts.
Yeah. We have a very similar upbringing because my mom also struggled with alcoholism, real bad, and whenever she drank, she was definitely a different person. She too was very promiscuous, a lot of men in and out the house, a lot of men. And my mother was very physical with her kids, very physical.
Mm,
When she drank, she just got very violent. And it always seems like I was the person out all of the siblings that took a lot of things from her. Even to this day, my mother has five, well, she is six of us live, well, six kids, five of us is living, and my mother have a good relationship with all my siblings except me. For whatever the reason is, I send her money and do things for her, but she just is, and I don't, sometimes I think about it. And I was telling my sister the other day, we kind of talk about it a little bit, and she, was saying like, well, I don't know what it is with you and mother, but she has no desire to communicate with me or to have a relationship with me and things like that. And and I've accepted that, but
right.
part of me believed that my father had a lot to do with it, because I was the oldest male in the family, and
Mm,
out of her kids, and she always would say, "Oh, you just like," yeah, and I'm nothing like this man at all. Nothing
right.
like that.
Right.
So let me ask you a question. As an adult, how do you think your father being absent from your life affect you growing up as an adult?
Wow, that's a great question. I can go, we can park right there and talk about that for a long time, right? Um, you know, just a lot of things going back from childhood, right? Was a lot of rejection,
Mhm.
um, because so my mother, me and my sister have different fathers,
Yeah.
and so for a long time, my mom would try to push me on my sister's father, and he knew, I'm a little boy, I don't know what's going on, but he knew I wasn't his. And so he would want nothing to do with me. He would, pick up my sister, wouldn't pick me up, buy her gifts, wouldn't buy me anything. So from a little boy, I dealt with a lot of rejection. I felt very isolated. I had a
Mhm.
7-year old sister. She was off doing her thing. I was an annoying little brother. My mom living her life. I was by myself a lot.
Mhm.
And I think just a lot of self consciousness, a lot of my what am I trying to say here? My confidence, your
Mhm.
self confidence when you're dealing with a lack of support as a
Mhm.
young person, a lack of people being involved and engaged in your life causes you, as I grew up, to have a hard time believing in myself.
Yeah.
You have a hard time building solid relationships with people,
Mhm.
because even with my closest family, things would be torn apart constantly, right? And so that was really hard for me. Back to what you were saying about your mother being very abusive, right? And or I think the word you used was physical.
Yes.
So my mom wasn't very physical with me because I was the baby, but I would see her be very physical, closed fists, would hit my sister a lot. But what she was with me was very verbally abusive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And that would just dumb you down to make you feel this big and make you feel incapable,
Mhm.
make you feel inadequate, make you feel like beat your self-confidence down, right? And so even as I got older and I got into, the work field, it was very hard for a long time for me to um take constructive criticism because I seen it as negative,
Yeah.
right? It would always bring me back to my mom telling me that I was a dumb little boy, or
Yeah.
telling me that I was stupid, or telling me
Yeah.
that, you'll never be nothing, that,
Hmm.
you know, all of that, right? And it builds this mechanism in our brains to it's like a blockade,
Hmm.
right? And so yeah, just dealing with that, it's mental, also emotional.
That's right.
The emotional intelligence, it took me a long time to build that, because as a young boy, what it caused me to do is to shut off my emotions,
Hmm.
right? And so because I didn't like feeling sad, I didn't like feeling hurt, I didn't like crying, I didn't like, right? Because that's how I was left to feel as a young boy. So very, very early, I learned to just shut that part of me down. And it caused me to, again, that's the part of not being able to build solid relationships, right? You have to be emotionally engaged when you talk about being with a girlfriend, or
Yeah.
a wife, or even a best friend,
Yeah.
right? Your friend may want to confide in you, and if
Yeah.
you're emotionally detached because you're just so used to doing that, that hinders your ability to build solid relationships in your life. So yeah, I mean, all of that just made it really, really tough.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that too. I know for myself, honestly, I didn't know that me not having a relationship with neither parent, even to this day, I don't have a relationship with my dad either. I didn't know that it affected me mentally as deep as it did. I really
Yeah,
did. And what I did was I start sleeping around with a lot of women.
yeah,
I started experiment with different narcotics.
yeah,
And but I didn't realize that I was trying to fill that void. And I
yeah,
think some of the things that cut deep with me was, I was always, for some reason, God has always given me the grace to be able to go to school and obtain information and graduate and stuff. And neither parent came to neither graduation, grade school, eighth grade, high school, like nobody was there,
right.
But when my
So,
sisters, two of the sisters graduated, my mom threw a party. They were celebrated. She bought them clothes and bought them gifts and things like that.
wow,
So I always thought something was wrong with me, you know. Now my father was never there, but I knew who he was. I knew, where to go to find him at and things like that. And and I always took it personal. Like I always
right,
felt like it was me, and
right,
I was hurt. And I realized that at an older age, when I became an adult, that hurt people, because that's all I was
yes,
doing. I was intentionally getting in a relationship with these women really to hurt them because the way
yeah,
my mom did me,
right,
and as I became a little older, I felt bad when I realized that, that I had my own internal issues going on. Even when I had, like, God would send me like friends, brothers and stuff that was very sincere about my well-being. I
right,
couldn't be a friend to them because my mentality was, well, if my family don't care about me, nobody care about me, which we both
right,
is not true.
right,
But it's just, man, like, that type of dynamics, you know, of growing up in a home like that, or having a lack of support really does a number on people as they age and get older and stuff.
Absolutely, and that's something too, because Sacramento is, there are parts where it is very inner city,
Yeah.
and where we grew up was the South Sacramento part of Sacramento, and it's tough because when you grow up and experience the things that we did as young men, um, you automatically are behind the eight ball. You're
Yes.
behind the eight ball mentally. You're behind the eight ball emotionally. Because you don't get the luxury of having a two-parent home. You don't have the luxury of being able to just focus on school as a young kid because everything's stable at home. I know my mom. I'm gonna go home. My mom's gonna cook some dinner. I know
Yeah.
my dad had the game on or something and probably try to throw the ball with me, or there is no stability. And
Mm-hmm.
so the young people that grow up that way and experience that, people don't realize is that they have to work so much
Yes.
harder
Mm-hmm.
just to stay focused
Mm-hmm. Yes.
on the task at hand. Not
Exactly.
that makes them incapable to
Yeah.
do. It's the focus.
Yeah.
Things that you are experiencing outside of school.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's just, yeah, it's just an uphill battle, to say the least. And what I will say is that just kind of piggybacking off of what you had stated about, you as you grew up, you started to sleep around with different women and stuff like that, and it was hard to build friendships, and that was kind of like a result or the
Mm-hmm.
fruit of what you experienced as a young man. And so for me, that was very similar, very similar. I even got to the point to where so it got so bad. Um, about 13, 14 years old, it got so bad with the gang violence and stuff with my mom's boyfriends that we had to move from South Sacramento. I come home, our house would be spray painted up, or every so often, we'd be having to run to the bathroom, lay down in the bathtub
Yeah.
because bodies
Yeah.
shooting, or and so it got so bad. And this was the one thing that my mom, I do give her kudos for, because she did try, in
Yeah.
this regard. She said, you know what, I'm not going to raise a teenage son in this environment. So we actually did pick up and move to at the time, a more low key part of town, which was the Arden Arcade area by Arden Fair Mall. This was like early 2000s, and it was compared to South Sacramento, was way low key. Make a long story short, what it helped me to do is it helped me to boom. I went to one high school, right? So I started high school, and I threw myself into sports.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like a big outlet for me. Basketball mainly, also football, but mainly basketball, and that was a huge outlet for me. School that gave me a reason now to focus on school, because if you don't have the grades, you can't play.
Yeah.
And so, again, it was still a little hard because my mother wasn't engaged or involved, but I said, look, I want to play. So, you got to at least hold a 2.0. So, I'm like, okay, I got to do this. And again, I played 30 games a year, just basketball. So 3 times 4, 30 times 4, excuse me, is 120
Mm-hmm.
games at least. And I can remember her showing up to about 5.
Yeah.
And so because of that, I didn't right away just throw myself, at women. What I did is, I threw myself because I wanted a family, wanted that feeling of being accepted,
Yeah.
of being, uplifted, of feeling like I was a part of something.
Yeah.
And even though I had that with sports, when I got to my junior year, I look back, I said, man, I'm putting in all this work and nobody cares.
Right.
No,
Yes.
nobody cares.
Yep.
Nobody's
Yep.
coming to lift me up.
Yep.
Nobody's coming to give me kudos. No
Yep.
one's saying great job.
Mm.
So I my attention got diverted now to the parties,
Yeah.
the smoking weed, the
Yeah.
drinking alcohol, right? And
Yeah.
then I started rubbing elbows with not so good people,
Yeah.
and I ended up getting jumped into a gang at 17.
Yeah.
And from there, my life took a whole nother turn. But again, it all stemmed from growing up in a fatherless home.
Yeah. It's interesting that you said that you felt like nobody cared. You doing all this stuff. And honestly, that is the mentality that I adopted. Like I felt like I'm doing all this stuff and nobody cared. I remember in my first semester of school, I was still in college. I was still broken. I was still dealing with a lot of issues that I didn't even know that was there. And I remember when I finished my first semester, I went back to Chicago, and for Christmas break, and I visited. And I remember they sent my grades to my mom's house, and I remember I had something like 3Ds, 2Cs, or something like that. And I blamed that on my mother. My mother, she was in there drinking with my uncles and stuff, and the whole family was there. And I was upset that my grades was like this because I felt like it was my mother's fault. And when I opened my grades, I took my grades in there and I told her, I was like, Mom, look. And she looked like, okay. And I said, well, Mom, this your fault. Like you never, tried to help me and be there for me. My mother told me, and this is the watered down version of what she said. In other words, she said, that's your life. Those your grades. If you go down there to school and flunk out like a dummy, you're gonna be back here with the rest of us. I don't care. She pretty much told she don't care. It
Mm.
was those words. I promise to God in Jesus' name. It was those words. It was like the switch. When I
Yep.
went back to school that January, A's, just literally almost straight A's. I think I
Right.
got from that time on. I think I got one B and the rest in A's throughout the rest of my
Wow.
undergrad. Yeah,
Nice.
because it was at that moment I realized, like, wow, like she really don't care. Like,
Right.
what I'm saying? But I needed to hear that specifically from her. And from that moment on is when I adapted the mentality. And even though I was hurting all that, I adapted the mentality like, okay, you know what, Jesse, you got to take care of you because ain't
Right.
nobody else gonna do it. Real talk.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's good. And I think we all have those pivotal moments in our lives where it clicks,
Yeah.
right? And regardless of what you went through and what was holding you back, you make a decision within yourself, like, okay, it's go time, right?
Yes.
I'm gonna do this. And that my different situation, but my turning point, um, I was able to kind of use some of, turn, my good and turn it around, excuse me, the bad and turn around for the good, because my mother ended up kicking me out at 17. So then I had to make a way. So I had, it built this survival instinct in me.
Yeah.
So when fast forward to when I was 24 years old, I already had a 3-year-old daughter. I just got out of jail and everything. And so that was my pivotal moment. And I
Yeah.
had experience with the Lord.
Yeah.
And everything inside of me that I had experienced, um, he taught me and helped me to turn it and use it as fuel, right?
Yes.
And to teach me that I am capable, that I am capable of more, that I am more than a conqueror,
Yes.
right? That I am able to overcome this by the blood of the lamb and the word of my testimony, that there are
Yeah.
so many the spirit was empowering me at that moment.
Yeah.
And I began to again take ownership,
Mm-hmm.
and, and to go and to put my hands to the plow and go to work,
Yeah.
because I look, if I continue, right, just like I'm sure for you, you said, hey, if I just continue going down this path, I ain't gonna graduate, and then
Right.
all of
Right. Right.
nothing,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna be back here like my mom said, and
Yeah.
you are like,
Yeah.
nope, I'm
Yeah.
not,
No. No.
you
No.
know, and that was the same with me. I said, look, I already got a daughter. If I continue to do this, I'm gonna be right back in jail, probably prison,
Yeah.
and you know, and everyone's gonna be looking at me like I'm a fool.
Yeah, yeah,
And, you know, and so man, by the grace of God, and you know, my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife of 10 years, just and then my beautiful children, you know,
yeah,
and the grace of God, man, just all wrapped into one, just helped me get to where I am today.
yeah. That's awesome. You know, earlier you talked about you said how, you know, people that comes from our background have to work a little bit harder. You know, so there are two people that I, you know, both mentor. One person is of another cultural race. This person grew up, got a beautiful family, come from a two-parent home, siblings, they're like close, and the other guy kind of grew up like you and I. And so I was telling the one friend that, you know, I'm just going to call him John. I
Okay.
was telling John about a week ago, because he was kind of complaining about, like, well, man, you know, I haven't seen you in a few days, blah, 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 this, you always hang with this other person. And I was explaining to him, I said, you know, the dynamics is different. I said, he need me more than you do. I
Yeah.
said, you have a support system. I said, you can stay at your house without having a job. He
Yeah.
doesn't have that. His father's not involved in his life. Your dad is at home. You got
Yeah.
sisters, brother-in-laws, like you guys celebrate each other. You got each other
Right.
back. I said, he don't have that. So the
Right.
dynamics is different, you know,
Yeah.
and I'm consistently having to explain this to him because he doesn't understand, because he didn't grow up the way that we grew up,
Yep.
you know. And so it's interesting that you talked about that, because I think sometimes people don't understand when you have people that come from the background that we come from, you know, our lens, we look at life through a different lens,
Boom. Yep.
you know what I'm saying? He live at home, he don't got a job, he can do what he want to do. The father don't really get on him about getting a job, he ain't got to pay no bills. Us, it's different. My mom, you talk
Yep.
about your mom keep you at 17. My mom
Yeah.
kicked me out at age 11 years old. I'm in an abandoned building,
Ooh.
homeless, didn't know what, you know, a kid didn't know what was going on.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? But
Right.
him,
Right.
he's not experienced that, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and I'm happy to constantly just drill this into him, like, man, like, you know, you have not learned anything from me in regards to my family dynamics through the years. It's different, you
Yes.
know. So that was,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely, man. And you know, it's one of those things, man, that you know, unfortunately, some people never grow out of that or
yeah,
work to the point, because what it does too is, and I hate to say it like this, um, but it zaps your motive. It can, if you allow it to, zap your motivation for doing.
yes, yeah,
Right? It
yeah,
completely zaps your motivation from wanting to do,
yeah,
right? And like you said, it's your experience, but it's also the lens that you see life from,
yeah,
because your lens is tainted,
mm-hmm,
and it becomes this thing that gets drilled into your brain, that, like, you know, well, what's the point?
yeah, exactly,
Nobody
100%.
cares.
Yes,
Nobody's gonna lift me up. Nobody's even coaching me or telling me yay or nay, or maybe
yep,
that's not a good idea.
yep,
It zaps your motivation to do,
yes,
right.
yes, mhm,
But again, by the grace of God, we're both still here. We're having this conversation,
yeah,
um, and you know, we're able to, hopefully, this taping here can help somebody else. You
yeah,
know, and again, I want to make this clear. I know we're talking about, you know, our backgrounds and people who you know, grew up without fatherless homes, but even if somebody cannot relate to that, I
yeah,
believe that there are times in different people's lives where you experience something that causes you to hurt, that
yeah,
causes you mental torments, that causes you, or again, going back to what I originally said, it'll zap that desire out of your body to do to
yeah,
do life. It'll
yeah,
cause depression. It'll cause you to run to alcohol. It'll
yeah,
cause whatever it is,
yes,
right? you know, again, for me, and it sounds like for you too, you know, it was the Lord, it was my faith that
100%.
helped pull me out of that. You
Yes.
know, for other people, it might be therapy.
Yeah.
It might be, you know, maybe getting and you know, a good strong circle of friends and family that assist them, right, and support them in that. But yeah,
Yeah. You know, one of the things that I think helped me through the years too is, you know, when I went to college and stuff, I started to be around a diverse group of people. I only grew up around African Americans. So when I went to college, I started, you know, growing up around, just, I shouldn't say grew up around, but in my college years, there were obviously just different races and different cultures. And man, I just gravitated towards that. And, you know, and what I didn't realize at the time was I needed those different experiences from those different cultures and races
yes,
to help me grow into the man I am today. You know,
yeah,
there was a lot of learning, a lot of hurt, a lot of, you know, me being close with people, and then they stab me in the back. And
yep,
then when that would happen, I would go right back down to the way I felt about my family. Like, oh, okay, they just like my family. I always related things to my family because that's where my pain originated from, so to
yeah,
speak, you know. But once I start to learn people and how people are, you know, I put up this guard, you know, so
yeah,
I threw up this guard, and it helped me, but it also worked against me in a sense too. You
yes,
know, there were you know, people trying to help me that saw I was hurt. I was in denial, of course. And I would push them away, like, look, you don't know nothing about me. You don't know me. Like, you know, pride, just all type of crazy stuff that was going on.
yep,
But I'm glad that through all of that, God has given me a heart to help men, young men, to mentor them, to support them, you know, to just really sow into their life, you know,
right.
because I didn't have that.
Right, right. No, absolutely. And see, again, you know, it goes back to what you survived. You know, you can then now identify in another person
Oh,
and now
yes.
have the ability to talk their talk,
Yes.
to you know, reach them where they're at, you know, and assist them, you know,
Yes.
which is awesome. And so if you don't mind, I did want to, cause I don't know how much longer we have, but kind of wanted to circle back on something, Jesse. Is that so? So I do now, actually, as of today, I do have a relationship with my father.
Yes.
Um, and what was crazy is back to my mother and growing up. Um, I had never seen a picture of my real dad.
Mhm.
Um, I had no clue that I even had a different dad until I was, gosh, when did we have that conversation? I might have been about 20.
Oh,
So for the
wow.
first 20 years of my life, I'm just thinking, well, my dad don't want me. It is what it is.
Yeah.
We had a conversation, you know, hey, you know, my mom and dad telling me you got a different dad. We only hung out, had a relationship for about a year or something like that. And all I knew is his name, which is Philip, and where they met. That's all I knew from 20 years old. And fast forward, and it was crazy. Only by the grace of God, uh, when I was 27 years old, one night at work, my mom calls me and she goes, "Hey, babe, guess what? I might have found your dad." I was like, "What?" And make long story short, it was on Facebook.
Wow.
Of all things, Facebook. My father ended up noticing, recognizing my grandmother, and requested, like, not knowing like that it's my mom and me because of her, but just saying, "Oh, she looked familiar. I'll like, request her as a friend." And my grandmother accepted. She seen it and she called my mom. Oh my gosh, she said, "I think this might be Andre's, you know, father."
Right.
And my mom ended up reaching out to him, and they had a conversation. And then he was like, "Oh yeah, I remember." And and it's crazy because, and I wanna say this because I feel like it was an anomaly in my situation. But typically, when we talk about this, it's a lot of times it's the male, the man, the father that just leaves,
Yes.
or right, or just goes, whatever the situation is, I'm out of here, right? And now this kid's growing up without a dad. Was not the case
Yeah.
in my
Wow.
case. It
Yeah.
was mother.
Wow.
It was my mom. So because my sister's dad was very abusive, like I said earlier, my real dad and her back in the day were hanging out for like a year. I guess my sister's dad started coming back into the picture, and when my mom became pregnant, she was so afraid that my sister's dad was going to beat her up and physically hurt her, that when my dad asked, "Hey, is it mine?" my mom lied to him and said no.
Wow.
And so, and again, I cannot fault the man for going, well, man, I've been hanging out with this woman
Yeah.
for a year. She gets pregnant and says it's not mine. I'm going to gracefully bow out. You
Right.
know, say, go ahead, I'm gonna leave. So he left. And for all those years, um, because of my mother's decision to tell him no, I grew up without a father. Um, but yeah, so I had all kinds of resentment when I knew that. I didn't talk
Wow.
to my mom for about 3 years. After from 20 to 23, I didn't talk to her. All kinds of stuff. But anyway, make long story short, uh, met him at 27. I look just like him. He's just a little darker than me. And he's fully embraced me, my children, my family, and we've been having a thriving relationship ever since. So
Yeah. So what was that like for you? And I know you just kind of explained that you never talked to your mom after you heard the news, but what was it like for you in that moment when you realized that you were kind of deceived all these years to think that somebody else was your dad, and you had experienced that rejection from the guy that you thought was your biological father? What was that like in that moment for you, knowing that your real biological father was out there somewhere?
wow, a ball of emotions,
Yeah.
relief,
Yeah.
because partly because knowing that there's a chance I still could possibly meet my dad, my real
Yeah.
dad. Relief that, man, okay, well, all that rejection I felt, there was a reason behind it, even
Right.
though it still affected me. Now I had some context
Yeah.
behind that I can logically go, okay, I get it now. But anger towards my
Yeah.
mother, resentment, like how could you,
Yeah.
like, and now I had to endure all of that because you couldn't just be a grown up and
Yeah.
look what grown ups do and be honest, right? That all of that confusion, a lack of trust from my mother, because I was like, oh, my goodness, you held that from me for that long,
Yeah.
you know. So again, all of that stuff. And again, it kind of threw me for this weird loop. Um, because again, going back to what you had stated about, the soul wounds that you had with your family, I'm like, there you go again. You just threw salt on a
Right.
wound, because now I'm like, I can't trust you because you just basically held a lie for 20 years, or and just all kinds of stuff, man. And so it was definitely a crazy part of my life there.
Did your mom ever say to you, why now? Why did she decide at that moment to tell you at 20 years old? Was she feeling bad, or like why?
I think it was because, yeah, she said she had a lot of regret, and
Yeah.
the regret was killing her.
Yeah.
she had even confessed that for at that time for the past 10 years or so she had tried to find him.
Mm.
She had tried people finder, just whatever she could, online different stuff, and to no avail. And so I think it finally just came to a point where she finally was like, you know what, maybe I'm just gonna tell him.
Yeah.
So it was that guilt and shame.
Yeah. So what was it like for you knowing now that your biological father is here, like just he's alive, he's is a different person. What was it like for you leading up to the point where you met him in person? Was you nervous? Was you scared? Like what was that like for you?
Just what you said, man. Nervous, scared, excited,
Yeah.
uh, not knowing, right? Scared of
Yeah.
the unknown. What is he like? You
Yeah.
know, like me. You
Yeah.
know, Experience all that rejection in my life. God, was he gonna reject me too? You
Yeah.
know, is he gonna reject my kids? Is he? What kind of person is he?
Yeah.
Because at that point, like I said, my life took a turn for the better at 24. So 3 years into that, at 27, I was a totally different person.
Yeah.
Uh, and so, what is he like?
Yeah. Yeah.
He, a productive member of society. Is he? What? All of that, man. And come to find out, again, just the relief of knowing that, man, he lives in the Bay Area. He's worked at the post office there in excuse me, I'm sorry, Castro Valley, Hayward area for 20 years. Loves sports, has a girlfriend, just like very just a active, productive member of society. And yeah,
Yeah.
it was a trip.
Yeah. Wow. So y'all first meeting was in the Bay Area or Sacramento? Where did y'all meet and what did you guys do?
Oh yeah, so good question. So ironically enough, at that time he was on the weekends managing softball leagues here in Fair Oaks.
Oh, wow.
Had been doing that for like 12 years.
Crazy.
So who knows? I might have even ran into the man,
Yeah.
at Starbucks or a Carl's Jr. or something, and never known, But yeah, so that very next weekend, he was actually out at Fair Oaks Park and managing a softball league. And me, my wife, and my kiddos met him over there.
Wow.
He was working, but again, we just pulled up over there and spent maybe about 20 minutes, just hugging it out, talking. And I think I even have a picture. It's the only picture that I have of my mom and my dad together.
Mm.
You know, um, and yeah, so yeah, that's how it happened.
Yeah. Yeah. That is, man, I bet that was just, oh, I bet that was some. What do you feel like he was nervous to meet you as well?
He was, yeah, yeah. We talked about that. Yeah, he was also nervous, just the unexpected. Is he gonna be good enough? You know, am I gonna like him?
Yeah.
All of those things. So, um, but we're like best friends now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Do you when he tried to give you some advice or how does that make you do you feel like makes you feel good or does it just like, well, okay, I'm an adult now, like like what's your take on it? How do you receive that?
That's a work in progress.
Yeah, I know.
That's a work in progress, man.
Yeah.
And just everything we've already talked about, contributes to me having a hard time taking advice.
Yeah.
I mean, from 17 for you since 11,
Yeah.
always making decisions on your own,
Yes.
good or bad.
Yeah.
The result is you were the quarterback of that, right? And
Yeah.
so um it's been hard, it's hard, but it's getting better. And even because sometimes, it's not good. Sometimes, it's critical. It'll be,
Yes.
it could be something crazy. Like he's really big on like keeping his car real clean, washing the inside and out. Like he did every time. He might come by and just, oh man, you gonna wash your car or what, son? Kind of, something like that.
Yeah.
Irritate me.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it'll irritate me, which is not a big deal. He's
Yeah.
just, you know, um, yeah, that's a work in progress. But that's funny you brought that up
Yeah.
because struggle. That is a struggle for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. No, I know. I get that. I get that. I know I've had times as an adult, my mom trying to give me some advice that clearly did not align with what I was trying to do or wanting to do and for my life.
Yeah,
And even so, let me back up. One thing about me though, even though I don't have a relationship with neither parent, I have always, as an adult, always been respectful. Don't
right,
like I don't when I do have a conversation with them and I see it going left or going south, I know how to, God has given me the ability to know how to bow out of those conversations respectfully, because all of us have a strong personality, my mom, my dad, and myself. So when I
right,
do ever talk to them one-on-one and they say something or they do something or that triggers me, I know how to be like, well, mom, you know what? This conversation is going nowhere. I'm going to end a conversation. She keep going like, well, mom, I'm gonna hang up now. I'll talk to you another time, and I'll hang up. That helps me to avoid
right,
me for saying something that it was going to be offensive and disrespectful to her. My father,
right,
however, he definitely got a chance. At least my mom, she kind of was there a little bit, and did what she, had to do. My dad, it's like, well, you know what? It is what it is. And
right.
so I just, man, let's switch it up a little bit.
Okay.
There's a lot of black on black crime, as going on throughout the community, African American community. Do you think that a lot of that is contributed to people who don't come from two-parent home, especially having a father involved?
Absolutely. I think that plays a huge part in it. Um, that's a good subject too. We can talk about that for a long time, but
Yeah,
I think because again, the main contributing factor is that, if I can just sum it up, is that because there's no father in the household, that
yeah,
causes instability, which causes a lot of times a lack of income coming into the home, and so that causes young black men and women to feel
yeah,
like, okay, well, now I got to go out, I got to fend for myself.
yeah,
So now within your own community, everyone's fighting to climb the ladder.
yeah,
So, and it's not always like someone like, well, look, I'm just gonna get this job at McDonald's. Sometimes it's like, well, who's closest to you that has the most influence? It might be a drug dealer, it might be,
yeah,
something like that. So now you have a bunch of young men and women who are really initially, it's not a lot of times it's not what can I say? The intention behind what they're doing isn't really negative to hurt anybody or to do
yeah,
anything. It's because they trying to survive,
yeah, yeah,
right? But then as time goes on, you get, again, you get all this black on black crime in our very own neighborhoods because, again, is it going to be me or is it going to be you?
right, exactly.
I'm going to get mine. I'm going to protect me. I'm going to make
Yeah,
sure I eat. I'm going to make sure that, and nobody taking nothing off my plate.
yeah,
Right. And that's kind of in a nutshell. Hopefully
yeah.
that makes sense, but
No,
that's what, that's what it is. That's
yeah, I do. I definitely agree with you on that. Earlier I talked about hurt people, because that's what I was doing. I was hurting. I was on purposely sleep with these women, trying to hurt them emotionally,
yeah,
trying to make them fall in love with me and things like that. But I think to add to your point, I think a lot of that has to do with not having a father figure as well as a mother. But I want to focus on the father because of a man. The Bible says that you know, I don't want to offend anybody, but um, well, let me put it like this: men are the authority figure. Put it
Yes.
like that in
Yeah.
the home, and so with
Order.
that,
They provide order,
right, exactly. Order, structure,
structure.
support,
Yep.
teach you how to respect authority, teach you how to grow up and be, if you're a young boy, to be a man. With the girl, it teaches them how a man should love
Yeah.
them as women as they grow older because the father is loving them, you know, so it should teach them what to look for when you go out there. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? You need to find somebody that's going to protect you, going to be a provider, who's going
Absolutely.
to encourage you, support you, and all those things. And
Yeah.
when you have that missing, there's a void. And
Yeah.
so now these people have went out here to the streets, you know, and so the streets have showed them what I call false love.
Yeah.
And so they get wrapped up in that, doing the drug and the killing and all this other crazy stuff. And you know, and they think that this is love when it's really not.
Nope.
You know what I'm saying?
It's
And
not.
so that's my take on it because I've, you know, a lot of stuff I've done that I want to share on camera,
Yeah.
you know, but I know it was due to a lack of not having that structure, that family structure, for lack of better terms.
Absolutely. Think about it. Just those two things: the presence
Hmm.
of that authority figure to call you out, pull you by
Yes.
the tail,
Hmm.
put you in check.
Right.
Man,
Right.
hey, that's not what we do. You
Right.
know, that example shit to
Yeah.
teach about work ethic. The thing is it's hard for you to go down a rabbit hole in your life if there's that exampleship of your father getting up every morning, going to work, coming home, being involved, putting food on the table, paying bills, going to your games,
Yeah.
showing up for your school events, contributing to your life.
Right.
It's hard to get away from that
Yeah.
because that structure and that support is in place.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're running out of time. We got like about, I think, 4 more minutes, but I want to ask you one question. So, by your dad being absent from your life, you know, no fault of his own, that part of your life, how has that uh, affected you as being a parent, a father, a male figure? How has that, you know, sharpened your parenting skills or didn't sharpen your parenting skills?
That's a great question. Um, so two things on that. Number one, um, I'll just say as a male leader in my home, I I to this day, even just to be transparent with you and whoever may see this, uh I struggle with making decisions. I don't always make the right decision for my home because I never had that exampleship.
Yeah.
Even my mother, because you can get that from your mother if she
Yeah.
was a working home building woman, but my
Yeah.
mom wasn't. So I didn't know what it was like to work, pay bills, make decisions, do that. So sometimes I do struggle. I don't make the
Yeah.
right one.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm decision and be like, oh man, a month later, you're like, oh gosh, I should have did the other thing, right? So
Yeah.
that's constant growth. I didn't have that exampleship in my life. But now as a father, it actually helped me in a really strange way, believe it or not, because I strive to be and to give my children everything I did not have.
Right. That's awesome.
Everything I did not have. I'm very affectionate with my daughters. I give
That's
them my
awesome.
love to try to help, encourage them.
Yes.
You're very smart. You're very funny. You're beautiful.
Beautiful. Yes.
I love your shirt. I like that hair tie. You
Yes.
give your daddy a hug.
Yes.
Like I'm very nurturing.
Yes.
because I know what it's like to be a plant that gets no water.
Yes,
And
exactly.
so, and so I work very hard to do that. So
That's
it
awesome.
have a very positive impact in my fatherhood.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that you made those comments or make those efforts to be a part of your daughter life, despite of what your background was, because of the things that's going on in society today, the social media, all this BBA, all this crazy stuff going on. I feel like the women, the young kids, girls I'm talking about today, they need that male figure to love on them so
Yes.
that they can have self-confidence, so
Yes.
that that type of stuff can combat low self-esteem and things like that. You know what I'm saying? Because I think a lot of times women in general, they do things for attention, to
Yeah.
draw attention to their physical appearance,
Right.
for the likes, for the comments and things like
Yeah.
that. And when it's actual out, it's false, because they still are broken on the inside
Yep.
because they haven't dealt with their issues. You know what I'm
Absolutely.
saying? So
Yes.
that's awesome, man. Kudos to you for doing that. We
Thank
have run out of timings, and time has went quick.
you. Yeah.
Brother, as usual, I enjoy chopping it up with you, talking to you. We
Yes.
always get deep, and we would definitely be connecting again soon on this show. All right.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. And yeah, anytime. I
Okay.
really enjoyed this. Any topic, anytime.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Thank you. And
Okay.
that's it for this edition of Mental Health Matters. If you enjoyed this particular show, if you would like to be a guest on our show, or if you like a DVD copy of this show, please dial 916 366 4600. Thank you.